Hi, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dave.
We're glad you're here.
Thanks for checking out Gyotaku Bonsai.
Yeah. The history is pretty interesting, mostly because it's not documented particularly well. In the 1830s, Japanese fishermen would do this sort of thing where they would on the boat they would make a print of a fish, and the idea was they had to document their catch for a cash prize. And these are folks who were living on the margins, and that cash prize would make a difference. Then, though, the samurai figured out, oh, this is art, because they're already studying, kabuki, calligraphy, poetry, things like fly fishing, plus chopping folks' heads off with swords. They're doing all that stuff. But one thing that they centered in on was Gyotaku, these fish prints. And it continued. So that's 1830s. But then, remember history, gunboat diplomacy. Perry comes and opens Tokyo Bay and Japan for trade to the U.S. One of the things he brings with him is offset printing, and the Japanese totally dump this stuff. A couple people continue it as a traditional art, but most of it is just gone. And there's a few museums in Japan where they're doing this stuff, where they're showing the older prints, and there's some going back to 1837, 1840. And the people that kept it alive between then and the 1950s in the U.S., is where it resurfaces, are scientists who decide that instead of writing 3 pages documenting a fish and describing it, they would make a print of the thing. So that makes sense from their point of view, because they get an accurate depiction. And that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to keep going. I'm not here to make lifelike prints. I don't want to color them in with watercolors. I don't want to, and there are people who do that, and they do a beautiful job. It's just not what I do. So I'm looking to make it as accurate and anatomical fish as I can, and then figure out some way, like this guy, to put them into motion and to add depth and add clarity to them. After World War II, in Hawaii and on the west coast of the U.S., mostly Japanese Americans start doing this again. Not too many people on the East Coast right now are doing this. Since the 50s, it's turned into a recognized art form, but it's mostly out west and in Hawaii. So this is a black sea bass caught off of Asbury Park, New Jersey. So you wash it, dry it very, very, very dry. It's important because the ink isn't going to adhere to a wet fish. And then you pin the thing onto this foam board with additional foam to prop up the fins so that it looks like it's swimming. What we're going to be doing now is painting the ink on there and then dabbing it off to make sure that you don't have too much in there. And the way you know that you have the right amount on it is by it doesn't have a sheen the way it does. It sort of lightens up, and you get sort of a matte finish rather than a glossy kind of thing. So this is what you're looking to do. You have to make sure that line connects with the fins, and then you go out like this, trying to get it on the fins rather than the foam. And there you go. That's the first stroke. Then you do down here. The faces are really important because they have all this like bony plate kind of stuff on it, and you want to catch the texture of that. But it is kind of important to make sure you're going head to tail. And then also the same thing is going on here. And you want to make sure you connect it to the fin like that. There's clearly too much ink on that to make a proper print. So you want to take this paper towel and dab it off. Now, it's important that you dab it rather than swipe it, because if you do that, you're going to get lines. But this is the way. So two sides of paper. This side's a little bit smooth. This side's a little bit rough. We're looking for the rough one. It seems to help picking up. I'm going to paint this guy so he's like just straight across the middle. We're going for a vanilla presentation here. You press them down. It's important to have one hand on the fish so that the paper doesn't move. And you can see how the line of it, you're picking up, by rubbing it, you're picking up the scales and the line, the outline of the body. Now, I would think it's a little bit too heavy on the ink on the bottom, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Now, the other thing you can do is, if you want to suggest depth, you can go right back down again and print a sort of ghost image. And that's real quick. You want to make sure that you're not rubbing that on top of the fish that you previously printed. And you want to do it quickly but you want to get a suggestion of the fish. So it's not as important to get all the detail, but there you go. I always take a picture of the eyes before I print them, just so I can match the color, and that's what I did. They have sort of brown eyes. Before we started today, I mixed up this brown color that these guys have. I'm going to have this one be clear and focused, and the other is going to be broken and distorted. Because the next thing we're doing is painting in the pupil. Put the kanji under the fish like that, press the thing down, and it's a pretty good image. And then, since I'm happy with it, it's my initials, you know, and what is it, 525, and that's essentially the finished product there.